Hey everyone, and welcome to part 42 of my F1 Challenge career mode. Today we go to the European Grand Prix at the Nurburgring. Now I had a little bit of a break after Canada where we did get a victory, but lots of people thought it was a bit controversial due to the way the last lap played out. But it was a very exciting race nevertheless, so you should go check it out if you haven't already. But today it's the European Grand Prix where we did manage to get a victory last year, so we should look okay. But we'll see when we jump into qualifying and the race. I'm going to hand you over to the commentator.
Just before the free practice session begins, let's take a quick look at the Drivers' Championship. Schumacher first. Coulthard second. The BAR driver third. Well, that covers the drivers. Let's take a quick look at the constructors next. Ferrari lead the Constructors' Championship. McLaren are second. Williams are third. Located approximately 60 kilometers northwest of Koblenz, the Nurburgring combines short, slow, medium and fast turns. Whilst the new Nurburgring pales into insignificance compared to the original Nordschleife circuit, the fatalities of yesteryear more than justify today's safety standards, which render the old 14-mile loop redundant.
So here we are in practice then, when the car was pretty much played with understeer. I mean, I was fiddling around with the setup this time round because obviously this BAR hasn't got the same amount of comparative downforce as the McLaren did last season compared to the rest of the field. But the first thing I did in qualifying before I managed to set up my first lap was crash into a Jaguar, which is a great start. But you can see I was about 2.2 seconds off, but I had quite a lot of fuel on board. Then when I did lower down the fuel, Coulthard improved even more, and I'm on 121.9, so you can see how far off I am really. I really need to try and get higher up the grids, and the last thing to happen in practice was when I was basically running out of fuel, went a bit wide and then decided to just keep my foot in over the grass, and of course I spun and hit the wall. Obviously that was the end of the run. I was already over. I couldn't get my way round to finish that lap. But we jump into qualifying where it was overcast conditions, not as warm as it was in practice, which might have an effect on the way the cars and their lap times and the way the cars are handling around this track. But our first time was 22.3, but I didn't actually notice the fact that I had 13 laps of fuel on board if you look at my top right. So I went back into the pits, came back out again, and I did manage to improve to 121.1, which is my fastest time that I managed to do around this circuit so far. And then on the next lap, I was half a second up on my splits, and I managed to go to 20.8, which is actually really good. Hacken's on a 20.2 at the moment, so he might be actually looking good. And then our final improvement was to 20.7 as we run out of fuel across the line, and I hand you over to the grid.
Hello there. Welcome to Europe for round 9 of the 2001 FIA Formula One World Championship. The weather, as so often is the case here, is just wonderful. Schumacher first. Mika Häkkinen second. Barrichello third. Coulthard consistently outpaced his championship rival, the BAR driver. Ralf Schumacher, 5th. Juan Pablo Montoya, 6th. The BAR driver was decidedly average in qualifying and will have to work extra hard to make the most of his midfield position. He starts 7th. Kimi Räikkönen, 8th. Eddie Irvine, 9th. Villeneuve couldn't quite match the pace of his teammate. He starts 10th. Trulli, 11th. Heidfeld, 12th. Alesi, 13th. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, 14th. Pedro de la Rosa, 15th. Jos Verstappen, 16th. Jenson Button, 17th. Giancarlo Fisichella, 18th. Alonso, 19th. Tarso Marquez, 20th. Enrique Bernoldi, 21st. Berti, 22nd.
Here we are on the grid, starting in 7th place, a really decent qualifying position. Again, we are behind the top 3 teams as we have the lights in front of us and beside us. lights out, and away we go. And you can see the Sauber's got a better start. Being hit in the back by, I think, a Jaguar, who caught onto Raikkonen there and sent him flying off the circuit. We're going to carry on towards turn 1. We've got Jacques Villeneuve on our inside, surprisingly. We're going to go down the inside of Montoya, I think that was. We're behind Schumacher. Villeneuve is still there. He must have cut across the corner, but I think we've just shut him out on the exit. We're up into the point into 6th place with Ralf Schumacher just in front of us. But going into the end of this first sector, there's a really good overtaking opportunity going into this right-hander. I've known this for the past 2 seasons. If you've watched the one in the McLaren and the one in the Williams, you'll see that I've overtaken people many times on that corner specifically. But I'm very lucky the Jaguar didn't actually cause me any damage there at the start, because my start wasn't so great. But unfortunately, you see Raikkonen just rejoin the circuit right at the back of the field. Sorry to Raikkonen there. But Villeneuve decides to carve a circuit of his own as he goes down the inside. But luckily, he does give me the position, and he does actually manage to stay ahead of Juan Pablo Montoya, at least down that small straight, which might be important for later on in the race. Juan Pablo Montoya, obviously quite a fast driver and in one of the top teams. But as you can see, went down the inside of Ralf Schumacher, and I've got the 2 McLarens and 2 Ferraris in front of us, which I hope to try and catch up. But here's an onboard from Raikkonen, and you'll see him just getting flung off by me accidentally. Just a slight little nudge on the rear wing, just got caught, and he went off. Didn't get any damage though, and he resumed at the back of the field. But took me until lap 5 to actually get anywhere, because although Ralf Schumacher was still all over the back of me, as you'd expect, Coulthard was just in front of me, but he was catching up Rubens Barrichello, and Rubens Barrichello was turning out to be the bottleneck of this group. I always had Juan Pablo Montoya somewhere behind Ralf Schumacher, but I decided to get down the inside of Coulthard here. Can I make the same manoeuvre? No, I'm kind of hooked on the curb, and the curbs around here are deadly. And I mean, when I say deadly, they'll throw your car in all kind of locations. But are we going to go down the inside? No, he covers the inside. We're going to go around the outside. Can we keep it side by side with David Coulthard, surprisingly? Are we going to get a good run up the hill, though? Not really this time around. So that may be an opportunity in later laps. But there are still many opportunities in this race. We're only on lap 6 after all. And of course, we've got the podium position just up the road. But as you can see, David Coulthard going down the inside again. I think he's actually trying to defend from us rather than go down the inside of Rubens Barrichello. But we go round the outside. Now we're going to go get a good run up the hill. Yes, we are. We're right on the back of David Coulthard's gearbox as we head towards the fast left and right. Oh, we're going to go down the inside. No, we're not. Coulthard keeps around the outside, but he's cut across the grass. It's going to slow him down this small straight into the hard left-hander. And are we going to get him? Yes, no, we're not actually. David Coulthard doing a great job of hanging around the outside there, and then this right-hander is just, there's no way of overtaking into that. But you can see that I went round the outside, got a really good run up the hill, but I couldn't quite get down the inside early enough to be able to force him out wide enough for me to overtake. But he cut across the corner, which did slow him down along the next straight, which is actually surprisingly how often the AI do that around this circuit. But I went down the inside, but I couldn't quite shut him out on the outside, and I really struggled around that next right-hander with understeer. But on lap 9, I went around the outside of David Coulthard again, and can I get him going uphill? And look at the run I got this time. I had to actually let off the throttle before I ran into the back of David Coulthard. We were fully alongside as we go into this left, and then into the right, and we're ahead of David Coulthard. Now we need to try and hunt after Rubens Barrichello. I did notice that I had less fuel than the people around me, so that may reason why Rubens Barrichello is so slow is because he has heavier fuel than the rest of us. As you can see, got the slipstream on David Coulthard, went down the inside, pretty simple in the end, shut him out on the outside. He actually ran across the grass again, but obviously I was already ahead. But on the very next lap, on lap 10, I shaped up Rubens Barrichello for a pass down the inside, as per usual, in the same location. And we then want to get a good run into the hairpin, which I did get a good run into the hairpin. I was going to go down the inside, not the outside like I had with David Coulthard. Went down the inside and went up into 3rd place. Mika Hakkinen a good 6 seconds ahead, 7 seconds ahead even. He is absolutely running away with it. Michael Schumacher is off in the distance, but as we go into this fast left and right, I just catch the curb, which unsettles the back end. I'm going to go spinning. I'm not going to get hit by any of the cars. Oh no, I've been hit by David Coulthard right at the end of the spin, so not when I was actually in the high speed. And then I looked, and I doesn't look like I have any damage, but unfortunately my car is crabbing horribly. My suspension is completely broken, and it is a nightmare to drive. It's worse than with a brake failure actually. But you can see that Juan Pablo Montoya cheekily decides to carve his own track out and then overtake me by corner cutting, which is nice of him. But you can see that I went down the inside of Rubens Barrichello, and this point was obviously fighting for 3rd place, slipstreamed him down into the hairpin, and that was all looking fine. Problem was when I got to that fast left and right, the curbs along there, and I mean in practice and qualifying I had problems all the way throughout that corner. I was slower than the AI anyway, and then the problem with the car getting unsettled was just horrible to drive. But you can see that I just caught it, and there was no saving that. I was very surprised I didn't get hit on the first part, but then just the last part when I was trying to regain control, David Coulthard crashes into me, and then Juan Pablo Montoya decides to completely remove that corner and overtake me, which is fair enough because I was crabbing all over the place. I decided to pit on lap 12 a bit earlier than my actual scheduled fuel stop, but I had to because I wanted to see whether they'd do anything about my suspension, whether they'd improve it in any way. Unfortunately it didn't, which led me with an awful car, and I was around 2.5-3 seconds slower a lap, which was horrible because I was slower than the Jaguars. There was absolutely no chance. And on lap 15 with Coulthard behind me after his pit stop, I did run wide, I spanned the grass, and then had a massive accident with David Coulthard, and that's when I decided to practically call it a day with this race. I will not be able to have the pace, and it's just a horrible car to drive. I just went on the grass there. I did that in practice, I believe, once for a previous race in the previous years, but David Coulthard having an absolutely monumental accident with the wall there, a wheel coming off of him, and he's flipping round, and yeah, David Coulthard's definitely out of the race, as you can see. In terms of the championship, Coulthard was already behind us, so it looks like that's not going to change. But I come into the garage now to end our race, and I'll now hand you over to the results.
That was an absolutely breathtaking European Grand Prix. Here are the final results. Schumacher first. Hakkinen second. Barrichello third. Ralf Schumacher fourth. Montoya fifth. Trulli sixth.
So as you can see, Michael Schumacher is back on track with his championship run. Mika Hakkinen finishing a very good second. They're very close, closer than most times this season for Hakkinen. Barrichello third, so a good amount of points for Ferrari. Schumacher fourth, Montoya fifth, and Trulli sixth, which is important for Jordan in terms of trying to catch up to Minardi.
The results confirmed, it's high time we updated the Drivers' Championship. Schumacher extends his lead at the top of the Drivers' Championship.
As you can see, I keep my third place in the standings, but as you can see, look how close it is from second down to seventh. There are so little points in that. It is just incredible. Second down to sixth even. So we'll look at that in future races.
Ferrari increase their lead at the top of the Constructors' Championship. McLaren are second, followed by the third place Williams.
Ferrari extending their lead at the top of the Constructors' Championship. BAR in kind of a no man's land. I mean, Williams isn't too far ahead, but we're going to have to really rely on Jacques Villeneuve picking up at least some points in races such as these, where I don't score any, because otherwise BAR is just going to be completely dead in the water in this championship. But I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Like if you did, leave a comment down in the comments section about where you think I'll finish in the next race. I can't remember what race it is, but I'll try to post that in the comments for you, and I will see you next time.